Welcome back to part 4 of the mental equivalent lectures given by Emmet Fox. In this final part he's going to talk about maintaining the new equivalent. So first we learn that changing the results in our lives is because of changing the way we think and feel about things. That is the basic foundation. However, if we just change the way we think and feel about things, we also have to make sure that it sticks, that it's not just a temporary change for a few seconds or minutes, which is most often the case for people around the world. We want to make sure that this change sticks with us so that results can permanently change around for the better. And that is exactly what this final part is going to remind you of. Now, Emmet went on to say the following. It's always good to make a practical experiment. So I advise you to take a single problem in your life, something you want to get rid of or something you want to obtain, and change your thought about this thing and keep it changed. Do not be in a hurry to select your problem. Take your time. Do not tell anyone you are doing this. If you tell a friend about it, you are thereby strongly affirming the existence of the problem, which is the very thing you are trying to get rid of. If you tell your friend that you are going to work on your rheumatism or on lack, you are making these things very real to your subconscious mind. Also, your spiritual energy is leaking away, as electricity does in what we call a ground. Take your problem and change your mind concerning it and keep it changed for a month, and you will be astonished at the results you will get. If you really do keep your thought changed, you will not have to wait a month. If you really change your thought and keep it changed, the demonstration may come in a few hours. But to keep tensely looking for the demonstration is really affirming the existence of the problem, is it not? The secret is to keep your thought changed into the new condition. So keep your thought carefully, quietly expressive of the new condition that you want to produce. Believe what you are thinking, and to prove that you believe it, you must act the part. By changing your mind about your problem in this way and keeping it changed, you are building a new mental equivalent. A mental equivalent of harmony and success. And that mental equivalent, as we know, must be outpictured in your experience. For a while you will find that your thoughts will keep slipping back into the old rut. Such is the force of habit. But if you are quietly persistent, you will gain the victory. It is always a little difficult to change a habit, but it can be done. And the new right habit becomes easier than the old wrong habit. And that is how a new mental equivalent is built. Change your mind and keep it changed. Do not talk about the negative thing or act as if it were here. Act your part as though the new condition were already in being in the outer world. If you will do this, the new condition will presently appear in the outer world, because the outer is always but the projection or outpicturing of the inner. We project our own belief and call it experience, and this gives us the clue to the difference between a true action and a false or unreal action. What is true action? A true action is one that really changes things, that gets you somewhere. A false action does not. For example, if your car has traction, it is moving. That is a true action, and you will presently reach your destination. But if it does not have traction, there will be movement, vibration, but you will not get anywhere. You are wearing out the engine and perhaps the tires, but you do not get anywhere. The same thing happens when a soldier is marking time, as we say. He is tiring himself and wearing out his shoes, but not getting anywhere. These are examples of false action. Suppose you have a difficult letter to write or a sermon or a lecture to prepare. Suppose you sit in front of a sheet of paper and draw all sorts of lines or cut the pencil to pieces or tear your hair. These would be false actions, and many people do just that. Such actions get you nowhere. To decide what you are going to say, to start a current of thought and then write it down is true action. You will note that the difference is that in the false action you begin from the outside. You had not prepared your thoughts, you tried to begin by writing. With the true action you get your thoughts in order first and then the writing or outer activity followed. A false action means deadlock. A true action is always fruitful. True activity is always from within outward. False activity tries to work from without inward. One is centrifugal and the other is centripetal, if you want to be technical. If you are working from within out, your work is alive and will be productive. If you are working from outside inwardly, your work is dead and it will have a bad effect on you. Artists and literary people speak of pot boilers. You know what a pot boiler is? It is a picture that you paint or a story that you write, not because you are interested, but just to keep the monetary returns coming in. It is never good, because it is not the result of inspiration. It is done from the outside and is a false action. It is a common saying among writers that 3 pot boilers will kill any talent, and that is true. The proper way to paint a picture is to see beauty somewhere, in a landscape or in a beautiful face, or wherever you please. You thrill to that beauty and then you go to the canvas and express your inspiration there. That is art, and that is true action. It inspires other people, and it helps and develops you yourself. If you write a story or a novel because you have observed life, because you have seen certain things happen and studied certain people and write it all down because you're alive with it, that is true action, and you write a great book. Dickens, George Eliot, and all the great authors wrote in that way. But if you say, I will do 1500 words a day and give my publisher the mixture as before, and that will secure my income, your work will be dead. And this policy will kill any talent that you may have. If you are in business and you are interested in your job and love it, your work is a positive action and must ultimately bring you success. Even if the work is uncongenial, but nevertheless you say, this is my job for the moment, I'm going to do it well, and as well as I can, and then something better will open up. You are working from within outward. Your work is a positive action, and before long something really congenial will come to you. Most people know that these things are true. They know that they are true for pictures and stories and business life, but they do not realize that they are equally true for the things of the soul. Yet such is the case. If you pray and meditate from the outside just because you think it is a duty or because you feel guilty if you do not, your prayers will be dead. You will get no demonstration and make no spiritual progress, and you will get no joy. But if you feel that when you are praying and meditating you are visiting with God, and that these moments are the happiest in 24 hours that you have, then you are working from within outward. Your spiritual growth will be fruitful, and you will grow very rapidly in spiritual understanding. When you pray in this way, there is no strain and your soul is filled with peace. The great enemy of prayer is a sense of tension. When you are tense, you are always working from the outside inward. Tension in prayer is probably the greatest cause of failure to demonstrate. Remember that the mind always stops working when you are tense. When you think, I must demonstrate this or I must get that in 3 days, you are tense, you are using willpower, and you will do more harm than good. Remember this, the door of the soul opens inwardly. If you will remember this, it will save you years and years of waiting for demonstrations. Write in your notebook, the one you carry in your pocket, not the notebook you keep locked in your desk, because that is a mausoleum, or better still, write it on a card and place it on your dresser. The door of the soul opens inwardly. And pray to God that you may remember the truth every time you turn to Him in prayer. You know what it means when a door opens inwardly? The harder you push against it, the tighter you close it. When you press or force or hurl yourself against it, you only close it on yourself. When you relax and draw back, you give it a chance to open. In all theaters and other public buildings, the door opens outward. The law insists upon this because crowds are apt to become panic-stricken, and then they push. And if the doors opened inward, the people would imprison themselves and be killed. The door of the soul opens inwardly. That is the law. Relax mentally, draw away from your problems spiritually, and the action of God will open the door for you, and you will be free. There's an old legend of the Middle Ages that is very instructive. It seems that a citizen was arrested by one of the barons and shut up in a dungeon in his castle. He was taken down dark stairs, down, by a ferocious-looking jailer who carried a great key a foot long. The door of a cell was opened and he was thrust into a dark hole. The door shut with a bang, and there he was. He lay in that dark dungeon for 20 years. Each day the jailer would come. The big door would be opened with a great creaking and groaning. A pitcher of water and a loaf of bread would be thrust, and the door would be closed again. Well, after 20 years, the prisoner decided that he could not stand it any longer. He wanted to die, but he did not want to commit suicide. So he decided that the next day, when the jailer came, he would attack him. The jailer would then kill him in self-defense, and thus his misery would be at an end. He thought he would examine the door carefully so as to be ready for tomorrow, and going over, he caught the handle and turned it. To his amazement, the door opened, and upon investigation, he found that there was no lock upon it, and never had been, and that for all those 20 years, he had not been locked in, except in belief. At any time in that period, he could have opened the door, if only he had known it. He thought it was locked, but it was not. He groped along the corridor and felt his way upstairs. At the top of the stairs, two soldiers were chatting, and they made no attempt to stop him. He crossed the great yard without attracting attention. There was an armed guard on a drawbridge at the great gate, but they paid no attention to him, and he walked out a free man. He went home unmolested and lived happily ever after. He could have done this any time through those long years, since his arrest, if he had known enough, but he did not. He was a captive, not of stone and iron, but of false belief. He was not locked in, he only thought he was. Of course, this is only a legend, but it is an extremely instructive one. We are all living in some kind of prison, some of us in one kind, some in another, some in a prison of lack, some in a prison of remorse and resentment, some in a prison of blind, unintelligent fear, some in a prison of sickness. But always the prison is in our thought and not in the nature of things. There is no truth in our seeming troubles. There is no reality in lack. There is no power in time or conditions to make us old or tired or sick. The Jesus Christ teaching, and the unity movement in particular, comes to us and says, you are not locked in a prison of circumstances. You are not chained in any dungeon. In the name of God, turn the handle, walk out, and be free. Build a mental equivalent of freedom, of vibrant physical health, of true prosperity, of increasing understanding and achievement for God. Build it by thinking of it, having faith in it, and acting the part, and the old limitation equivalent will gradually fade out, for the door is unlocked, and the voice of God in your heart says, be free. That was the end of the lecture. It's absolutely fascinating, this whole concept of building new mental equivalents in order to change the results in our lives. And I found it is very true. On numerous occasions with goals that I've had, at first I might start up with unbelief, but by changing my mind about the goal that I want to realize, and by actually discovering that it's possible, either through observation or analyzation of what I aim to achieve, you discover that in that change of consciousness, things do become possible for me, for you, for everyone. Another beautiful thing about Emmet Fox is that I read online that he was in some way connected to, I think, someone that originally created the Alcohol Anonymous group that is currently still in existence worldwide. But you see, these people are addicted to alcohol, and they admitted, apparently at least back in the day, that they learned a lot from Emmet Fox's work in order to overcome their addiction. And I can say the same thing for myself as a past drinker, heavy drinker for many years, that now that I've changed my mind about the drink itself, it's a lot easier to not drink it. Well, in fact, it is easy not to drink it. Sometimes I might think about it, I might remember that I used to do it, and that's kind of what he said in the beginning of this lecture. Let me scroll back. He said that for a while you will find that your thoughts will keep slipping back into the old rut. That is what he said at the beginning. Well, for a while I might think back on the times I had on the drug, but because I changed the mental equivalent, I don't have any desire. I literally don't have the desire anymore. Now, this wasn't the case for many years because I just didn't change my mind around properly enough. Now that I did so, I can confirm this works for addiction as well. It's absolutely beautiful, especially for people that are stuck in that place. They should learn about this as well. Hopefully they do over time when they're ready. But for now, I'm assuming you're not an addict or anything, and you can use this information to make wonderful things happen for yourself if you think about it carefully and then apply it powerfully. Now I hope you enjoyed these mental equivalent lectures because they're always fun to me to go over in my own time. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing to receive inspirational videos on a regular basis. And with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.